You are about to become the single most feared man in 15th-century Europe. Wallachia, 1431. A small, mountainous land squeezed between two empires. You were born into that keep, the second son of a man named Vlad Dracul. Your father belongs to a Christian knightly order sworn against the Ottomans, the Order of the Dragon. In your language, Dracul means dragon, and you will grow up known as his son, Dracula. Your homeland sits directly between two rising powers, and neither one will ever let it rest. You have two brothers, Mircea, older and proud, and Radu, younger and gentler than you. But peace is a currency your family can never quite afford. In 1442, the Ottomans send word. Peace has a price, and that price is your obedience. To keep his throne, your father must swear loyalty to the Sultan and hand over two of his sons as guarantee. You and Radu are those sons, handed over as living collateral for a peace no one truly trusts. You are 11 years old, and you will not see your homeland again for years. The Ottoman court is wealthier and more dazzling than anything you have ever seen, and utterly foreign. Radu adapts quickly, charming the court, but you never quite let your guard down. Somewhere in these years, you witness the Ottomans' own methods of punishment, and you do not forget them. Worse still, your older brother Mircea is captured, blinded, and buried alive by those same rivals. You are a hostage in a foreign court, and you cannot even go home to bury them. Something in you hardens that day, a quiet decision that you will never again be powerless. After roughly 4 years in captivity, you are finally released with an Ottoman army at your back. In 1448, you claim the throne of Wallachia for the first time, but your grip on power lasts barely 2 months before rival forces drive you out. You flee into exile, first to Moldavia, then deeper into Hungarian territory. For years, you live as a guest, a soldier, and a schemer, always watching, always waiting. You study statecraft in exile, learning exactly how thrones are won, kept, and lost. When a powerful Hungarian rival dies, the political door finally cracks open for you. In 1456, with new alliances behind you, you return to reclaim what was taken from your family. This time, you intend to rule differently. The nobles who betrayed your father are still here, still wealthy, still powerful, and you have not forgotten a single face. You invite them all to an Easter feast, as if the past were forgiven. It is not forgiveness, it is an ambush, and every man in that hall knows at the moment the doors close. The surviving boyars are marched into the mountains and forced to rebuild a fortress with their own hands. This is Poenari, your mountain stronghold, built from the labor of the men who once tried to destroy your family. With your rivals broken, you begin building a state ruled by absolute, unbending order. Legend says you leave a golden cup at a public well, and no one in Wallachia dares to steal it. Fear, in your hands, becomes a tool of law and order. You punish thieves, liars, and traitors with the harshest method the era offers, public impalement. It is brutal, deliberate, and meant to be seen, a warning stake planted along every major road. Crime in Wallachia drops sharply. Merchants say they can travel your roads without fear of theft. You have built order, but you have built it entirely out of terror. People stop calling you prince and start calling you something else entirely. Vlad the Impaler. German pamphlets soon spread across Europe, printing lurid, exaggerated tales of your cruelty. Some of it is true, some of it wildly embellished, but the name Dracula begins traveling faster than you ever will. You use that fear deliberately, as diplomacy, as leverage, as a message to anyone who thinks of crossing you. Then you make a decision that will change everything. You refuse to keep paying the Ottoman tribute. When Ottoman envoys refuse to remove their turbans in your presence, out of custom, you decide to make the custom permanent. It is a message meant for one man only, the new Sultan, Mehmed II. Mehmed does not forget insults, and he demands you appear before him in person. You refuse, and both of you know exactly what that refusal means. You order a scorched earth retreat, burning your own villages and poisoning your own wells. If the Ottomans want your land, they will find nothing on it to sustain an army. In 1462, Mehmed crosses the Danube with an army several times larger than anything you can field. It is the largest force ever assembled against your small country. Outnumbered, you decide not to meet them in open battle at all. Instead, on the night of June the 17th, you attempt something almost no one else would dare. You lead a small raiding party directly into the sleeping heart of the Ottoman camp. Your target is simple, the Sultan's own tent and the Sultan's own life. But Mehmed's tent, at the crucial moment, is empty. The Sultan has slept elsewhere that night. You slip back into the darkness having caused chaos, but you have not stopped the invasion. The Ottoman army is shaken, but it is far too large to be stopped by one night raid. They press deeper into Wallachia, closer to your capital, Targoviste. And outside the gates of Targoviste, the Ottomans find something waiting for them that no army has ever seen before. Stretching for over a mile, tens of thousands of impaled bodies line the road into your capital. Historical accounts put the number near 20,000, a single deliberate act of psychological warfare. Hardened soldiers, men who have marched through a dozen campaigns, stand frozen at the sight of it. Even Mehmed II, according to legend, is said to have turned pale at the sight. Within days, the main Ottoman force withdraws from Wallachia entirely. You have won, but you have also burned your own fields and turned your own people into a weapon. The cost of that victory falls heaviest on the very people you claim to protect. Word of what happened outside Targoviste spreads across every royal court in Europe. Unable to defeat you outright, the Ottomans turn to someone who knows you better than anyone else. Your brother, Radu. Radu offers the boyars something you never did. Mercy. One by one, the nobles you terrorized into obedience begin quietly defecting to him. The method that built your power now becomes the very reason it collapses. With his forces closing in, you retreat to the one place that has always kept you safe, Poenari. But this time, the mountain that once protected you becomes a trap. Legend says that rather than face capture, someone close to you leaps from this very tower into the river below. You yourself escape through a secret passage carved into the mountain behind the fortress. You flee north toward Hungary, hoping King Matthias Corvinus will finally give you the army you need. Instead, Matthias has you arrested the moment you arrive. Forged letters, allegedly proving you had secretly negotiated with the Ottomans, give Matthias his excuse. You spend the next several years imprisoned in Hungary, your throne and your freedom both gone at once. The boy who once survived an Ottoman court now sits in a Hungarian one, waiting again to rebuild his standing. He eventually converts to Catholicism and marries into the Hungarian nobility. After more than a decade of exile and imprisonment, you are finally released and politically rehabilitated. In 1476, with Hungarian and Moldovan support, you march to reclaim your throne one final time. For the third time in your life, you take back the throne of Wallachia. But this reign is fragile from the very first day. A throne with far fewer hands still willing to hold it up. Within months, Ottoman-backed forces move against you once again. In December of 1476, near the marshes outside Bucharest, your story reaches its final battle. Historical accounts disagree on exactly what happens next. Some say betrayal, some say open combat. What is certain is that you do not survive it. Vlad III, Vlad Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, is dead at roughly 45 years old. According to several accounts, his head is sent to Constantinople as proof of his death for the Sultan. Oh, the irony is hard to miss. The man who ruled by the stake meets an end just as final, just as public. Tradition holds that his body was buried at Snagov Monastery, though his actual grave has never been confirmed. For 4 centuries, your name fades into regional history, remembered mostly in Eastern Europe. Then, in the 1890s, an Irish novelist researching Eastern European folklore stumbles across your name. He borrows only your name and your homeland. The blood-drinking count he invents is pure fiction. There is no castle full of brides, no immortality, no supernatural curse. Only a prince who survived by becoming terrifying. In Romania today, you are remembered very differently, not as a monster, but as a defender. A prince who held the line against an empire that had already swallowed most of his neighbors. Historians still argue whether you were a tyrant or simply what your era demanded to survive. You began as a frightened boy handed away by his own father to buy peace with an empire. You ended as a name so terrifying it outlived your own kingdom by 500 years. So ask yourself honestly, if that same childhood had been yours, what would fear have made of you?